Hello everyone. Today we're going to plunge deep into the eerie world of history's most spine-tingling prophecies. Picture this: a dim room, candlelight flickering against stone walls, and a man hunched over a bowl of water, eyes locked in a trance. You may not know, but the facts show that some of the most famous predictions ever recorded came from people whose own lives were shaped by tragedy, loss, and the chaos of their times. And right now, we're going to pull back the curtain on their stories, not just their prophecies, but why they saw the future the way they did. Nostradamus, the man behind the legendary quatrains, wasn't some cold, detached fortune-teller. Born Michel de Nostradam in 1503, he grew up in a Europe divided by superstition, religious strife, and deadly plagues. His family, Jewish converts to Catholicism, lived with constant fear of persecution. As a young man, Nostradamus showed brilliance in language and science, but when the plague swept through his household, killing his wife and children, everything changed. Imagine losing your entire family to a disease you, as a physician, fought every day. Wouldn't that grief drive you to look beyond medicine, to the stars, to visions, to desperate attempts to make sense of the suffering? Now here's the chilling question for you. Do you think personal tragedy can truly unlock prophetic ability, or does it just make someone more desperate to find meaning where there's none? Share your thoughts below. I'm dying to hear them. But there's more. Nostradamus didn't just scribble vague verses. He locked himself away in dark rooms, gazing into bowls of water, slipping into altered states to write his famous quatrains. What's fascinating is how these prophecies, wrapped in riddles and symbolism, have stirred debate for centuries. One of his most famous forecasts was the Great Fire of London in 1666. In a rare moment of specificity, Nostradamus actually mentioned the year. And sure enough, a bakery fire on Pudding Lane turned into a citywide inferno, consuming over 13,000 homes. Was it sheer coincidence, or was this evidence that he could pierce the veil of time? Here's a fun twist. There are still people arguing whether Nostradamus predicted the fire or just made a lucky guess, given how flammable London was. What's your take? Was it prophecy or just the obvious waiting to happen? Comment below because I want to know if you lean believer or skeptic. Enter Baba Vanga, the blind mystic of Bulgaria, born in 1911. As a child, she was caught in a freak dust storm, losing her sight but gaining, according to legend, the ability to see the future. Her life took place against the backdrop of world wars, political upheaval, and the collapse of empires. And yet, she sat humbly in her village, offering predictions to ordinary people and world leaders alike. Did you know she's said to have predicted the sinking of the Russian submarine Kursk? She reportedly warned, "Kursk will be covered with water, and the whole world will weep." When Kursk sank in 2000, the prophecy sent shivers through believers everywhere. Here's the twist. Skeptics argue she could have meant the Russian city of Kursk, not a submarine. But even so, the eerie alignment between her words and the tragedy sparks debates to this day. So, what do you think? Was this pure chance, or was Baba Vanga truly tuned into something beyond our understanding? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear your theory. Another haunting aspect of Baba Vanga's predictions is how many seem to align with Nostradamus's visions, especially when it comes to Europe. Both foresaw a catastrophic war breaking out on the continent, and chillingly, both centered the year 2025. Can you feel the weight of that? The idea that two seers, separated by centuries, converge on the same date, the same war, the same massive upheaval. Are we watching history set to repeat itself, or are we just projecting our modern anxieties onto old prophecies? What's fascinating is how their warnings resonate today. Europe is once again on edge. Russia's conflict with Ukraine, NATO's rising tensions, and the constant shadow of nuclear weapons. Nostradamus and Baba Vanga might not have named specific nations, but the sense of impending catastrophe feels uncomfortably relevant. Here's the twist. Geopolitical analysts today, using cold, hard data, are saying 2025 could indeed be a critical year. So are the prophecies just reflecting patterns that human conflict has followed all along? This raises a big question for you. Do you believe humanity is locked in cycles of war we can't break? Or can we actually change our course? Let me know. Your comments could spark some great discussion. But prophecy isn't just about doom. Nostradamus' supporters point to his predictions of Hitler's rise, a figure he supposedly called Hister. Some say it's a reference to the Danube River, which the Romans called Hister. But others are convinced he foresaw Nazi Germany and the rivers of blood across Europe. Imagine reading a 16th-century poem that seems to capture the horrors of Stalingrad, the Holocaust, and the D-Day landings. Here's a quirky detail. Some believers even claim Nostradamus hid his predictions in coded language to avoid the Inquisition. So, was he a secret genius? Or is this just a game of retrofitting events to old texts? What's your take? Can prophecy really warn us ahead of time, or do we only see its accuracy after the fact? Post your answer in the comments. I'm genuinely curious to hear what you think. As we close this first part, remember, behind every prophecy, there's a human story. A man or woman living through their own era's chaos, trying to make sense of a world they couldn't control. Whether their visions were true glimpses of the future or reflections of their own fears, they continue to haunt us today. And now, here's the question I want you to sit with before we move to part 2. If a modern prophet emerged today, would you believe them? Or would you dismiss them as another doomsayer in a long line of forgotten names? Let me know in the comments. As we move deeper into the shadowed realm of prophecy, let's not forget where we left off. If a modern prophet rose today, would you believe them or wave them away? Hold that thought, because part 2 plunges us right into the heart of the most bone-chilling predictions tied to this year, 2025, and some of them, honestly, are stranger than fiction. First, let's circle back to the eerie convergence between Nostradamus and Baba Vanga on the Great European War of 2025. Imagine this: two mystics from completely different centuries, one scribbling in 16th century France, the other whispering predictions in a Bulgarian village in the 20th century, both pointing to now. It's almost cinematic, right? But here's the twist. Historians point out that Europe has always been a boiling pot of conflict, from the 100 Years' War to the World Wars. So does predicting war in Europe take foresight, or just common sense? Here's where the real tension lies. Today's military analysts warn that if the Ukraine-Russia war escalates, NATO could get directly involved. Imagine Russia's nearly 6,000 nuclear warheads lined up against NATO's collective forces, most of them backed by the United States' vast military. And here's the kicker. Modern warfare isn't just bombs and soldiers anymore. We're talking AI, cyber attacks, hypersonic weapons. Some experts even fear that if things spiral, we might see a conflict bigger and deadlier than anything in the 20th century. So here's my question to you. Do you think prophecy serves as a warning, something we can change? Or is it a fixed future, unchangeable no matter what we do? Comment below. Your insights might shift how we look at this. But just when you thought it couldn't get weirder, Baba Vanga throws in one of her most bizarre predictions: contact with extraterrestrial beings in 2025. Not just a sighting or a signal, but an appearance at a major sporting event. Wrap your mind around that. Picture the World Cup final or the Olympics, billions glued to screens, and suddenly an enormous ship with brilliant lights appears in the sky. It sounds like a movie script, but here's the fascinating twist. Recent years have seen the U.S. government and military take unidentified aerial phenomena, UAPs, more seriously than ever before. Remember the Pentagon's 2021 report, where 80 out of 144 UAP sightings were confirmed by advanced sensors? No one's claiming aliens yet, but the conversation has shifted. Even mainstream scientists like those at SETI, Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, admit the hunt is far from over. Here's something quirky. Baba Vanga even named a planet she claimed to contact in her dreams, Vampim. No astronomer has ever confirmed such a world, of course, but isn't it fascinating how her visions align with a deep human fascination with the stars? Carl Sagan, the legendary scientist, once said, "The universe is a pretty big place. If it's just us, seems like an awful waste of space." So, what do you think would happen if alien visitors really appeared during a global event? Panic? Wonder? War? Drop your imagined reaction in the comments. I'd love to see the creativity here. Now let's not skip over one of Vanga's most ominous declarations. That 2025 marks the beginning of the end times. But, and here's the surprising part, she didn't say the world would end immediately. According to her, it's the start of a centuries-long decline, ending in the year 5079. So what's supposed to kick it off? Vanga never gave specifics, but her descriptions included natural disasters, wars, and massive societal collapse. What's fascinating is how modern scientists echo some of these fears. The Global Catastrophic Risk Institute lists nuclear war, pandemics, runaway artificial intelligence, and climate collapse as genuine threats to human civilization. For instance, just one nuclear exchange between superpowers could trigger a nuclear winter, lowering global temperatures by several degrees and collapsing food systems worldwide. So even without prophecy, the risks are real. Here's the twist, though. Many people interpret end times predictions not as inevitable doom, but as a challenge, a wake-up call. Modern environmental movements, peace negotiations, and even the rise of sustainable tech all reflect efforts to steer humanity away from the edge. So, is prophecy meant to terrify or to inspire change? What's your take? Share it in the comments. This is where things get philosophical. Let's weave in a famous figure here, Elon Musk. Love him or hate him, Musk is a modern icon for preparing for humanity's long-term survival. From colonizing Mars to developing renewable energy systems. Some see him as a tech visionary, others as a reckless billionaire. But either way, his work taps directly into these ancient fears about Earth's fragility. Did you know Musk has even commented on the risks of AI, comparing it to summoning a demon? That's a modern echo of age-old apocalyptic warnings if I've ever heard one. But here's a quirky detour. Back in the 1970s, people freaked out over the Jupiter effect, a planetary alignment said to trigger earthquakes and disasters on Earth. It never happened, but some today are linking a rare alignment in 2024 to 2025 to Vanga's warnings. Scientists are quick to dismiss this. Planetary gravity is way too weak to cause geological chaos. Still, the fascination remains. Why do we love connecting cosmic events to human fate? So here's a big question to leave you with at the end of this section. Do you think we crave apocalyptic stories because they make us feel small? Or because they remind us we matter, that our actions could change everything? Let me know your thoughts. I'm genuinely curious to hear what draws you to these stories. As we gear up for part 3, we'll dive into even darker waters. Edgar Cayce's predictions of continent-shifting disasters, the Hopi elders' warnings of a blue star, and Alois Irlmaier's terrifying 3 days of darkness. Brace yourself, because the journey only gets stranger from here. If you're still with me, you're ready to step into the most unsettling part of this journey. The collapse, the awakening, and the final warnings that have haunted humanity for generations. This is where prophecy takes on not just war or aliens, but the very reshaping of the earth itself. Let's begin with Edgar Cayce, known as the Sleeping Prophet. Born in 1877 in rural Kentucky, Cayce claimed to enter a trance state where he could diagnose illnesses, recommend cures, and, most chillingly, deliver prophecies about the fate of the world. Here's the twist that keeps people hooked. Cayce's predictions weren't just vague musings. He spoke vividly about the Earth's crust shifting, reshaping continents, and swallowing whole nations. He saw Japan sinking beneath the sea, parts of northern Europe disappearing, and the western United States, including much of California, falling into the ocean. And here's where things get quirky. Despite these dire predictions, Cayce was also deeply spiritual, believing that humanity was on the cusp of a new era, a spiritual awakening, where people would rise above materialism and rediscover their connection to the divine. So you've got one man predicting both apocalyptic destruction and a golden age of enlightenment. Talk about mixed signals. This makes me wonder, do you think catastrophic predictions push people toward personal growth? Or do they just paralyze us with fear? Let me know in the comments. It's a fascinating psychological debate. Now here's a fun historical hook. Remember the Great Depression? Cayce famously predicted the 1929 stock market crash. At a time when America was riding high, full of optimism, Cayce warned of a coming economic storm. And sure enough, the crash hit, plunging the country into years of hardship. This one clear success put Cayce in the public eye and cemented his reputation as a true seer. But the twist is, many skeptics argue that economic collapses happen in cycles. So was it really prophecy, or just an educated guess? What's your take? Can someone really see financial disaster coming through psychic means, or are they just good at reading the signs? Share your thoughts. I'm itching to know where you stand on this. Let's cross the ocean to the American Southwest, where the Hopi people have preserved some of the oldest, most poetic prophecies on Earth. One of their most famous warnings speaks of the blue star Kachina, a celestial sign that will mark the beginning of a new world. According to the Hopi elders, when this mysterious star appears, it will signal the end of the old era and the purification of the earth. Here's where the modern mind starts racing. In 1997, when the bright Hale-Bopp comet lit up the sky, some thought it was the blue star prophecy coming true. But time passed, and the world remained intact. Or did it? The Hopi don't just warn about cosmic events, they also speak of webs across the sky, often interpreted today as airplane contrails or satellite networks. Isn't it fascinating how ancient visions can so easily slip into modern fears? Here's a question for you. Do you think ancient prophecies like the Hopis are symbolic, warnings about balance and respect? Or should we take them literally, watching the skies for some catastrophic sign? Drop your answer below. I can't wait to see your interpretations. But now, brace yourself, because we're stepping into the darkest vision yet. The 3 Days of Darkness, prophesied by Alois Irlmaier, a German seer from the mid-20th century. Picture this. The sky turns black, not a shred of light anywhere. Thunder roars through the night, and a deadly dust fills the air. Irlmaier warned that people should seal their homes, shut every window, and let no one in, not even family, because the air outside would be lethal. It's a bone-chilling image, and here's the kicker. Irlmaier didn't stop there. He also predicted that Russia would bomb the North Sea, causing massive floods across England, Germany, and the Netherlands, drowning half of England and wiping entire coastal cities off the map. The idea of Europe, a continent so central to human history, reduced to ruins by war and natural disaster, is almost too much to take in. But here's the twist. Many scholars point out that fears of catastrophic floods and darkness have been part of human imagination for centuries, from the Bible's plagues to the eruptions of Mount Tambora and Krakatoa, which turned skies black across continents. Are we seeing a universal human fear, projected again and again into prophecy? Or do these visions tap into something deeper, something real? I want to hear from you. If you knew 3 days of darkness were coming, how would you prepare? Would you stockpile food, seal your home, or try to warn as many people as you could? Tell me in the comments. I'd love to hear your survival plan. And here's another curveball. Today's scientists warn about different kinds of global darkness events, like the aftermath of a large-scale nuclear war, where soot and ash in the atmosphere could block sunlight and trigger a global winter. It's not the same as a mystic's vision, but the result, cold, famine, mass extinction, is eerily similar. As we close this section, let's not forget the human element behind all these prophecies. Whether it's Nostradamus scribbling by candlelight, Baba Vanga whispering her visions to frightened villagers, or Hopi elders passing down sacred warnings, these aren't just stories. They're reflections of our deepest fears and hopes. We long to know the future because we fear losing control, but we also long to believe we can change our fate. So here's the final, haunting question. Do you believe the future is written, or do we write it every day with our choices? Let me know in the comments. Your thoughts could spark the kind of conversation we all need to have. As we come to the end of this haunting journey, let's take a deep breath together. We've walked through centuries of prophecies, visions of war, disaster, alien encounters, and spiritual awakenings. And through it all, one thread has tied them together: the human longing to understand what's coming. Picture it softly. Nostradamus staring into his bowl of water, Baba Vanga dreaming of stars, Edgar Cayce whispering from a trance, the Hopi elders gazing up at the desert sky, and Alois Irlmaier trembling at his visions of darkness. All of them, across time, trying to pull meaning out of mystery, to warn, to guide, to prepare. And yet, here we are, still asking, is the future something we can know? Or is prophecy a mirror, reflecting back our own hopes and fears? We stand at a crossroads where science, faith, and imagination meet. We look at rising global tensions and wonder, will the Great War come? We stare into the night sky and wonder, are we alone? We track the melting ice and wonder, is the Earth's clock running out? But maybe, just maybe, the true message of these prophecies is not about doom. Maybe it's about awakening, about realizing that every day we help shape the story ahead. So let's step back, lengthen the sentences, soften the language, and close our eyes for a moment. Imagine the world quieting. Imagine the sky holding its breath. Imagine, just for a second, that we are not helpless passengers in a doomed timeline, but living storytellers, still able to rewrite the script. Thank you for walking this path today. Keep wondering, keep questioning, and remember, the future may not be set in stone. It might just be waiting for us to rise.